So this one is a little bit of a different YouTube channel recap in its own way. It's a bit of a like technology recap. It's a reflecting on my experience of my skin being homogenized in digital content. Today is Friday, 10 July 2026 AD, and here I, Tanis She/Her/Hers of Seattle, reflect on my experience of my skin being homogenized, speckles removed and or blurred in digital content such as pictures and videos. And this is one I'm going to distinguish here, not like Photoshop, just like the technology can't quite pick it up. Right? There are technological limits, and one of the consequences of that for myself and what I look like is I got all these like speckles on my body, and they're everywhere. And so some of them are so small, or the contrast between the speckle and my skin is so small, in addition to the spot itself being small, the speckle itself being small, that it doesn't get picked up. Or it gets blurred because I can't quite distinguish the boundaries, or the boundaries are smaller than the pixel kind of thing. Okay, whatever the limits of the technology are. And I was like, and it used to be kind of like, it's something that like I kind of not pushed to the side, was like aware of, but like it didn't necessarily like, I wouldn't necessarily put there's like a positive here. I was and then I got the device I'm filming this with. It's an iPhone 16e, and I went to I had a chip in my front tooth, and there was glue on it, and it came off. And I went to try and take a picture of the chip in the tooth, and it was difficult. The camera actually kind of blurred the boundaries of the chip in the tooth. So I'm like looking in it in the mirror, and the camera's having a hard time picking it up at like the precision of the actual chip. It's just the reality of technology. Okay. And I was like, does that make me feel better? I was like, not necessarily, but it was I think people are like, it should be a higher definition. I'm like, I think that actually I think that's a good thing in its own way, in the sense of like my skin being homogenized, my tooth is also being homogenized. Like it blurred the boundary to make it look like there wasn't a chip in the tooth. And I was like, this is a lot more difficult with this device. And so I was like, it's homogenization. So homogenization means making things the same. So essentially it's like, what happens is, this is my skin, and the speckles get removed, so it looks more like the skin tone underneath, whereas which is kind of more of like a really light tan color, whereas my speckles are brown. So like tan leather and brown leather. And brown leather, I purchased this back in the summer of 2015 approximately. This is brown leather. I'm not a lone wolf. This is me and my soulmate wolf, whoever this soulmate is. Yeah. And so brown leather does exist. Tan leather is not the only tone of leather, kind of like my skin tone. I have multicolored, multi-skin toned skin. And so I've come to, it's in its own way, this is a form of immunity to artificial intelligence, AI predicting me. So if they take into account like, I was like, so they don't, at digital, like device level, they may not even get a 100% accurate image of me, right? AI, if they want to work something and make predictions on it. And these speckles do factor into my thought processes, into how I physically, like bodily functioning and that kind of stuff, and how I treat myself and stuff like that. So if they don't even have a correct image, they don't even have the right there, and then there's how I engage with my own skin. Right? So there's a little bit of, they don't even have a correct step one. All right, so it's in that sense, they don't even have the correct thing. So it's immune to artificial intelligence predicting me. Some of my speckles are so small or have such jagged outlines that recording/photographing technology cannot quite get it 100% correct, even at the highest precision. If it tries to predict under my clothing, where most of my speckles are, artificial intelligence may snowball in inaccuracy. Though this technically applies to people too, not digital technology specific. So like one where it could really go wrong is like, you know, I have these speckles, and so if like it just like, you know, the default is people have like fair skin or whatever, and I've got all these speckles underneath, and I don't even show like the parts of my skin where the most speckles are, the highest density, speckle density, right? Then it gets stuff like, and it treats me with the default, you know, fair skin. And then it gets it super, it has the snowball possibility of inaccuracy. So it's just been an interesting one, and that kind of thing. And people say I'm not predictable, so, but I'm also like, but I am, because I hold routines and stuff like that. So it's kind of like, I've come to realize I'm the kind of person where like a lot of people will use random, or like not necessarily so far as unpredictable. And part of what I do is I try to make myself predictable. It's a part of who I am, is I do like consistency, routine, repetition, that kind of thing. So it's not so much of a peace offering as like, I do intend to be predictable, if none other than to myself. So if I'm not predictable to you, it might not be something we share, because I'm predictable to myself, you know, kind of thing. So there we go. And maybe there's parts of me that are like, to you, you predict, but I don't predict. Like some people like those angles. But with AI, it doesn't quite, it doesn't even have like the correct baseline in that sense. So there's a little bit of immunity there. Now, immunity to what forms of that, I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't mind the prediction. So this isn't one where I'm gonna be like, oh, they can't predict me, because, but I kind of, I guess like, not, I'm saying like, people with like one skin tone, or dominantly one skin tone, are like, you guys got it so good, really, I can predict you, because I like to be predictable. There's just a little bit of like, fine, it gets other people more right, you know, like that kind of thing. So that's reflecting on my experience of my skin being homogenized in digital content.